Alright, just gotta get my microphone readjusted. Took me a little bit to get started because, like I said, I was trying to get that Twilight Princess uploaded. It took until oh god, I always forget to turn my shit down. That's nice. There's your table of contents, which on the Wii U gamepad you can press X to access. You'll only see that. But on the gamepad I can see, everything. Introduction, those who hold the fate of the world in their hands, yada yada. But we'll just scroll through a little bit to commemorate us beating it yesterday. But we'll exit out of here in a moment, so just don't be surprised when the game audio comes in if it takes you off guard. And this is good HD stuff, of course. You can zoom all the way in and it's, interactive. It's not just like a JPEG on here. It's like a whole live medium. If I remember right, you had to use a code that came with... Oh, we didn't get that shield. Oh, that's just design stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you had to use a code that came with the actual book to get it, but I don't remember if they ever just released it properly for the Wii U. And when the table of contents are gone, you see the same thing on the gamepad, but there's a different border around the trim. Instead of just the green background. Different designs for Fi, more humanoid, rigid motif, Iron Man design, ninja design, shoulder to wrist is blade. Good God. And then, yeah, there's the more flowy one that they went with. And then, the actual final design. Oh, God, they gave her toes? That's unsettling. Who's responsible for giving Fi toes? Look at that Link to the Past ass character. Ooh. Dude in a suit. I guess that's kind of the idea they wanted to go for anyway. Sophie kind of looks like she's wearing shoes and Garaham kind of looks like he's wearing socks, but both of their design documents have toe outlines. But yeah, that's basically what flicking through the history is like. The whole first segment is going to be nothing but Skyward Sword stuff. And then there's the manga section at the end. Area by area, the Skyview Temple, the concept of the internals. That's a pretty final look at design right there. Baron Wood's official visual. And then the cistern, the dragon, going on to the next regions, the moles, the time shift stones. Ooh. With this talk of controlling time, one can't help but think of Ocarina of Time. The Ocarina is the same color as the time shift stones. Could they be made of the same material? And see, they don't outright confirm it, but I mean, that's basically why we all think that, because it's just like, oh, could it? It makes the most sense, though, especially when Zelda uses it. That she would be able to do something like split a timeline. Were there ever cooler versions of this? Not particularly. At least none that were worth showing. Yeah, the promotional art. Because this was all for the 25th anniversary. The Historia Skyward Sword itself started with that 25th anniversary design. A special illustration created for the 25th anniversary from the beginning to Skyward Sword. All the links are here, but Skyward Sword is the beginning. And then here is your timeline, at least as of this point. It has since been retconned a little bit. I forgot what got moved where on one of these branches. But here's how they established it. Creation of land and sky, Sacred Realm is sealed, establishment of the Hyrule Kingdom, and then the Minish Cap happens. Which there were already theories that, you know, that's where Link got his green hat from, but of course, Skyward Sword subsumes that, and it's just like, nope, Knight Academy. School uniform is all it was. Resurrection of Vati, and then Ocarina of Time, and boom, boom, boom. And then the hero is defeated explicitly is what they say. Like I said, I always believed it made more sense for it to be, you know, just abandoned. There was no Link to defeat Ganondorf because, you know, time travel nonsense. Because that is basically what happens, right? You play through Ocarina of Time, you draw the sword, you get schlorped into the future, and then you bounce back to that future, and then that past, and then that future, and that past. But it ends with you in that adult future, right after you defeat Ganondorf, having crossed into that timeline from the timeline where Ganondorf had come into power and you drew the sword. And then you get sent from that timeline at the end of Ocarina of Time to a new timeline where Ganondorf is just this and that and blah blah blah, which should be these two, meaning that in that original timeline, the one you're originally from, you should have just disappeared. Because the way that they do the time, especially since it splits into a timeline, it wouldn't make sense that those two would just tie themselves together back up, but I guess that is how they treat it. But like I said, I think in Wind Waker, if they're going to do that, we got to get, you know, we got to get that game. I want to play the game where Link loses. The Omnipotent Triforce grants wishes to those who touch it. Since the Triforce does not distinguish between good or evil, it allows both good and bad wishes. And then now it's getting into like the actual chronology and the lore. So everything we saw up to the Minish Cap, the cool stained glass designs, everything with the Force Sword, and then Ocarina of Time, arguably the most important, you know, era in the entire Zelda timeline. There's your alphabets. There's your Hylian for Ocarina of Time. So each of those makes a Japanese phonetic sound. So you put those Hylian words together and you get a Japanese sentence that can be translated back then into English to know what it means. And then they change it throughout. The medallions, the Hylian shield with the fourth Triforce piece that they just don't allude to anymore. Link to the Past, the originals, Majora's, Twilight, the Wind Waker. This is, of course, much nicer in the actual book, just because, you know, you're feeling it, touching it, smelling the pages. The Goron Tribe. There's your key. A-I-U-E-O, ha-he, fu-he-ho, ga-gi, goo-ge-go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you know it all. Anyway, let's kind of just... What is this? Creative Footprints. Design documents. Never got that one. Had a friend who had it, though. Pretty cool shit. Nice design documents. And this should just go like in real life chronological order. Yeah. Final designs and things like that. Who is Tingle? Look at his eyes. His eyes may be narrow, but they're very well suited to his work. He also has the ability to decipher a variety of maps. Naked Tingle, he's always wearing a unitard, so you usually don't see what his hair looks like. In fact, it looks like it's been cut by his grandmother, and his chest hair is quite thick. Ooh. A drawing by Tingle, the boy in green. Boots, when he lands after falling from the sky, looks like as tough as he might pitch. He looks as though he might pitch forward and fall. However, he was able to keep his footing, I guess because of the weird things. An illustration depicting a town of mask-wearing inhabitants. These masks would later evolve into designs for Majora's Mask. Oh, so this wasn't even... Oh. That's pretty neat. Moblins. Monsters that went unused, never appearing in the game itself. The battle against the giant monster who's more than twice the size of Link. He's like more than 6 times the size. Depicted on the left would have been an impression to say, would have left an impression to say the least. Are those proper bokoblins? Oh, but like in the trees. Whoever this guy is, some other like sword fighter. That's probably why like moblins and Darknuts aren't as formidable as you'd think, because they probably wanted to have a wide variety of these guys on top of the ones they already have, like Redads and whoever else. And then yeah, the stained glasses. Oh, the Midna designs. And that would have been a cooler design. I guess they just went with a more just regular ass wolf design for Link, as opposed to like a glowy Twilight monster. All the dumbass kids. Barney. Renato is 40 apparently. Ludacris is 15. Aru. I'm guessing they were going to have him have like a... Oh, and there's Impa. I'm guessing they were going to have him have like an alter ego though. Like, oh, I'm just a normal guy. Not really. I'm part of the rebellion. Oh, shit. That's cool looking stuff. I haven't really played any of these. Oh, and then, yeah, all the Links. All the Zeldas. Ganon. Half of those are Ganondorf. There's your game catalog. The Legend of Zelda. February 21st, 86. 06 on the Virtual Console. 07 on the Virtual Console. They dropped A Link to the Past before The Adventure of Link on the Virtual Console. That's kind of funny. And yeah, 09. I remember that was around when I got it, is when it dropped on the Virtual Console. And I was really excited to get it because it would have been the first time I played it. Damn, they got a lot of stuff for the Wind Waker. The Australian version, the limited edition English version. Damn. I wish I had that one. I don't even have this one. I got the Player's Choice. And then this one came bundled with the disc. The one that I had was just like a standalone package. Unless it came in that box by itself with that. Who knows? Because that's Australian. Damn, this one is so cool looking, though. And the cases are more appropriately sized. You don't get full DVD size cases. These Japanese ones, if you ever had a Game Boy player, it's like the same size as those. And yeah, I love, as you may have heard me say before, if you ever watched my stuff, I love these design documents. I love the background stuff. all the assets, and then all the promotional stuff too, like all the actual materials they make. And then here is the manga part, which you gotta flip to the back and read it backwards. And this is like not canon, but it tells the story of the first hero, or the first champion. So that's not Zelda back there, that's actually Hylia. And then the Link up in the front, I think that is Skyward Sword Link. But then the one in the background with the red scarf, that is, you know, the original champion. A loft wing flying through the sky. Far beneath Skyloft, the city in the sky where the young Link now stands under a sea of thick clouds, people once lived in the world below. Back when it was still called the land of Hylia, a dark age was brewing, shrouded in fear and betrayal. It was already Link, though. And I guess they locked him up because he was talking all this shit. Lord Diagonus, the man who framed you, has been killed by the Demon King. It was you, my own people, who said you had no need for a powerful hero. Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, this is just kind of a little side story. You can find, I'm sure, like some relevant lore to it, but it kind of defeats the purpose of a lot of what Skyward Sword itself established. Because it's like, what's the point of Link being the first if he wasn't really the first, though? Either way, though, they never did anything similar. Well, I think the Encyclopedia and the Arts and Artifacts came out after the Wii U had, like, already. Whoops. So yeah, that was that. But now let's look at some of the stuff that I plan on messing around with in the next couple of weeks. Let me get my Pro Controller. So yeah, you can see all the different stuff. Like I said, I want to find a way to at least cast the Wii U gamepad display to my computer to stream it that way, but yeah, most of the earliest stuff that I played was on the Wii U, though. All the GameCube titles, it was before I had like the setup for the classic consoles. Now that I do, I don't really use them as much, but the first thing I streamed was Shin Megami Tensei 5. That was on the Switch, though, kind of like a practice thing. And then after that, I think I went to right to Legacy of Darkness. Which I have another homebrew app that I can launch to allow me to connect any other Bluetooth controller, which is how I played it with the N64 Switch controller, as you'll hear me mention if you watch the series. But I'm not going to go through all that trouble right now. I definitely want to play this again at some point, because this is like one of my all-time favorite games. You know, a big part of my childhood. Wii U Virtual Console is also a good way to stream stuff if you don't have like an external monitor, because you can always just see what's happening on the gamepad. I could just be playing on the gamepad with the screen and all that if I wanted to, but I've never liked playing with the gamepad as much, like I said. Or as I've mentioned, rather. See if we can access one of the old save file on here, though. And then I actually went from here right to Sonic Adventure. I don't remember if this does anything. But anyway, yeah, I'm just going to be rambling most of the time about just the stuff that I'm going to be doing in between whatever, you know, I'm getting into right here. We'll get into the Chow Garden a little bit later. Within, like, you know, the next 30, 45 minutes probably. Because I don't plan on streaming a very long time. And it doesn't seem like anything's happening. Oh yeah, I remember now. I think this also plays when you start the character intros. So yeah, this was like the second game I ever did for the channel. But everything up to, you know, the first Syphonfilter speedrun last December, and then Syphonfilter 2 and 3, I wasn't really streaming, so it was all recorded. I never played the original Castlevania 64, only Legacy of Darkness on the channel. So I might play a little bit of the original Castlevania 64 in the next few days or in the next couple of weeks. Take a look at a little Nightfire and probably Rogue Ops 2. If anything, the only ones out of them that I'll really play might be Nightfire, because I could definitely get some fun out of replaying the old missions, as well as the multiplayer mode, the vehicles, and all this other cool stuff. But the main thing that will have, like, substance to it will be Goose Game. Probably stream it once or twice, because it doesn't take a whole lot to beat it. It's a short experience, but I'm not too sure what I want the flow of that video to be. I'll be conversating, I'm sure, a lot, because it won't be gameplay oriented, but you know, I'm thinking about doing like some Bob Ross kind of shit talk on there. Same old nonsense, but like just with that tone. Just for goose ambience. And then the Chow Garden, like I said, we'll get into it a little later in the stream, but I'll probably revisit that at least once or twice a week, just because it's an easy way to kill a good 30 minutes, especially if you're going to play like a level or two of Sonic in between, which you may or you may not, depending on the route you want to take. For a lot of people who only care about you know, the Chow Garden, they'll usually just use glitches and stuff to get maximum rings and then infinite chaos drives and things like that, so they don't ever really have to play Sonic again. Which it can get annoying replaying a lot of those same levels and objectives. But, you know, it depends on what you want to play them for. I probably won't go as in-depth as, you know, trading between the games and all that, especially because most of the work that I did was on the Wii U. I would have to go into my file manager here on the Wii U, which is another homebrew app. I'd have to, you know, I'd have to port the save data onto my SD card, drop it into my PC, extract it, or no, drop it into the Wii,
also known as Blue Crescent,
or transfer it to my Wii's SD card rather, and then transfer that to my actual GameCube memory card so that I could read it
physical body
and then
of
trade
mere
Chow in between
immortality,
the tiny
and
Chow
a
garden
power
and all that.
surpasses that of
Which
a
is a lot of
wild
trouble. I
beast.
went through the trouble of doing that when
The
I was
man
actually
beasts,
recording
choosing
the
to
Chow
live
Garden footage,
harmoniously with humans,
which will be
sealed
like the
away their
second or
enormous
third.
magical powers
It's like the
to
third
prevent
video
them
that you'll
from
see on
being
my home
used.
channel, or on the
However,
homepage on my
through
channel.
severe ascetic training, Cornell acquired the art
I went
for
through the trouble
releasing
just so I could have the
sealed
HD
man-wolf
footage
power.
versus the
After
grainy
a year
footage,
of
but
traveling and ascetic training,
of course with
Cornell rushed
Pokemon
back to
we
his
went the route of
village,
just playing the whole
only
thing
to
like that,
find
so Sonic would be
evil
easier
spirits
that
had
way
set
too
the
if you're going to go
village
through
on
that
fire,
trouble, but
engulfing the village in a lotus flower of flames.
I might, in between
His
now and the
only
new
living
year,
blood
what I do
relative,
pick up of the
his
Chow
sister
Garden, I
Ada,
might go through
was
the trouble
carried
of
away by the evil spirits.
you know, breeding
Now, he must
and
save her.
reincarnating up to a new
Cornell
Chaos Chow.
uses the man-wolf's
Because it
acute
takes
sense of smell
one way or
to
the other,
track the
assuming you're
scent
not cheating,
of his sister's
it's
blood.
gonna take like 20
Reinhard
hours minimum.
Schneider.
That's just what it takes for a Chow to age.
We go back 8
Probably a
years
little
in
bit
time,
longer on average, but
before the period in which these two young warriors
I've already
risked
got a
their
lot of
lives
I've already got like a good
against the
gene pool,
devil.
you know, I've got good attributes, so I
Now,
might just slap
the
some
truth
stuff
that
together.
has been shrouded
A lot of
in
my
the
good
gloom
Chow
of
I did already
darkness
evolve into Chaos
will be
Chow though,
revealed.
as you'll see here in a little bit. So they can no longer breed. Via Cornell hard. Yeah, when I played it, I played Cornell on normal difficulty, I think, as well as Henry. I played Reinhardt hard mode, which this one's done already, so it's like a new file. It doesn't really matter for Henry. If you never played this game, basically it was always supposed to be what this game is, only with like slightly different characters. This guy was gonna be still like a werewolf judo man, but Henry was supposed to be like that big Frankenstein monster with a chainsaw, but also with a gun. They couldn't get it to work, so they just dropped the original 64 with these two characters. And then like a year later, they dropped this version with effectively like expanded DLC is what you would call it now, or like a definitive edition. The Henry mode is different though. It takes you through like a handful of stages from all of their playthroughs, because they have slightly different stages. It's all already like in a completed state, and you're just finding the kids lost in each stage. Probably won't go through the whole thing now because it can still take like a good long while. Some of those cutscenes got real loud, but the gameplay's way quieter. So really fun. I might pick up the original like I said, but if I do, it'll just be noting the differences, you know, which are mostly like in this first stage. This haunted forest gets reworked a lot between, you know, the original 64 version and Legacy of Darkness. But anyway, Nightfire was a pretty fun thing to do, but all of that was still, you know, I was still getting used to everything. Even just like holding my voice, not running out of breath while talking into the microphone and stuff like that. It was all very rough. But yeah, we finished Skyward Sword last night. That's why we were looking through the Hyrule Historia. This right here is what we played Majora's Mask on. And then we played the Pokemon games on the actual GameCube, so these will be like clean files if I ever want to play them again, you know? I don't have to tamper with my actual memory card files. All the Sonic stuff was on here, though. Another big thing that I've always called back to a lot, I don't know if I put it in this description. I don't think I did. No. But yeah, I touch on the Midway stuff a lot, which that goes into the GameCube titles on here, like the True Crime games, Capcom vs. SNK, Hit and Runs on the channel, Naruto Clash of Ninja, and the second one, as well as the 2 Budokais are on there. There's Shadow, there's Rogue Ops, Nightfire. And then yeah, here's the Midway stuff. And all the Cartoon Network games down there, which of course the Cartoon Network series is there. And then the Scooby games that we've played, and then here's a Scooby game that's not on the channel. This is an N64 title, but we'll get to that eventually. Scooby comes back every so often. Somewhere in between now and the next Zelda game, we'll play this one, I think. There's also one on the Super Nintendo, but I don't think I ever ported it onto the Wii U. I'd have to dump it from my computer. Or, you know, build the package so that I can load it like these. Because normally for like these GameCube titles, you'd have to go into the Nintendo app, which is this one right here, and then that loads into the Wii mode, and then it does all that. These can just shortcut me to it. And yeah, the Midway stuff. Oh, shit. No, I didn't want to use the gamepad. It doesn't matter. It's probably easier anyway. And that's the thing, to load these games, because it loads into the Wii mode, it's always going to check you for, unless you want to use the gamepad, if it allows you, which it should for all the GameCube games, it's always going to want you to be using a Wii Remote, or at least a classic controller. Which I have my Wii Remote right here, but I hit the button, so I said screw it. And this is, you'll hear me plug my Midway FMV NFT video that I call it a lot, and it uses a lot of footage from this collection mostly, because this is probably the best out of the 3, which we played all 3 already on the channel too. It's a short series because we didn't play all the games in depth, we just kind of toured them all. But all these games with all their stuff, the Mortal Kombat stuff is definitely the best though. It's what we always call back to. And yeah, more, same reason, more design stuff. That's just a dude in a plastic mask. It hurt so good they had to come back at it for seconds. Whose stats are those? Is this the machine stats? The machine specs, I guess? Aw, damn it. Pressed the wrong button. I don't want to play this game. I want to mock its development. What are you doing to me? These collections are always fun. You don't really see stuff like this anymore. And if you do, it's incredibly bare bones. They'll package like 3 games. Huh. Yeah, they'll package like 3 games that are slightly themed together, and they won't really include extras or anything at all. Whereas with these collections back in this day, they were, you know, fighting to put the most in there for them. This one's got more stuff. Yeah. A whole ass, like 20-minute, or yeah, like 17-minute development piece.
Whose idea was Mortal Kombat? Like what I thought me, what the initial idea, I woke up, just wanted imagery,
My name is David Mikicic, and I'm a
But yeah, we
graphic
might, if I can find anything else kind of like this, we might touch on this as well. I got some stuff on the Xbox for like,
My name is Ed Boone.
I don't even remember the name of the game, Starfield, and
do backgrounds,
as well as the Metal Gear Solid Volume 1 collection.
John Vogel backgrounds.
It's got like the graphic novels and all that. I might look at that. I might look at some Twin Snakes on here, but we've done that before too, and that's not quite as fun as making fun of this stuff.
Speedrun, and I'm a video artist.
Our motto in Williams is always.
I mean, for me, it's mostly just fun and easy to
take everything.
Just gab over these as opposed to actual gameplay, but
the only way to do this is
as often as I can find more stuff like this, I'll try to incorporate it. A lot of the licensed products have stuff like this, and I've seen some Mortal Kombat and like Street Fighter, you know, footage of this era that must be from some kind of collection that I don't have or haven't seen yet. So I need to get my hands on some more of these. It's probably like a specific Mortal Kombat title that has some of this material in it.
Concept of the story. This guy here eventually became.
Because Midway 3, they didn't really put anything in that one. 1 and 2 have more of the FMV like this.
The foundation of that.
And of course, Mortal Kombat being Mortal Kombat, this gets,
One thing Mortal Kombat
you know, the
for all of
most.
us is, it puts you in a mood or puts you in a setting where you're sort of able to create things
Look at that mustache.
that are surreal. Mortal Kombat 1 took place more, you know, on an earthly environment, you know, in an Asian type of setting. In part 2,
See what I'm
we knew that
saying?
we were gonna
Asian.
send our
That's as much as they
characters
could
to sort of a
describe it.
different world. So
It's that shit I was talking about in Scooby-Doo a few
for us
months
to
ago.
kind of interpret that in any way we wanted.
That was just the vibe. They wanted that kung fu, you know what I mean?
It's just endless, you know.
It's specifically Chinese. More so than anything else, I think, like, the Chinese imagery and culture was the thing they were really, really wanting to cash in on. Which, you know, with big names like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, you know, dominating 80s and 90s film.
You do that really fast.
Well, Bruce Lee was a little older already too, but I think he was like dead by the 80s. But
you know, everybody would start looking for him.
you know what I mean?
immediately.
It's not surprising.
And that's when I believe Ed came up with this whole sort of combination lock system.
There's 6 little boxes, 3 of which are controlled by player 1, 3 of which are controlled by player 2. Try different combinations of those 6. So there's a million possible combinations to see what can be unlocked in the game. And then there's John Vogel. He did backgrounds for part 1. He did some stop motion animation stuff for part 2, and he did some backgrounds in part 3.
He worked on backgrounds along with Tony Goski.
Tony's probably one of the most respected artists in this department. He's probably.
And I'll be fiddling with the
probably
audio a
one of the
little
best
bit because, you know,
artists in any industry.
title to title.
And he conceptualizes backgrounds as well.
This is the Soul Chamber, and this is where
The Soul Chamber, this is where I smoke
Soul
after
Nato.
work.
He never ceases to amaze us. Steve Baran worked on Mortal Kombat 3. That was the first one he worked on, and he did the character graphics with John Tobias.
I like doing stuff that's actually kind of shocking. Not so much violent or anything, but just stuff that gets a reaction.
Dave Mikicic, he's like our resident 3D expert. He kind of got it.
And it's funny to hear these people talk about how advanced or sometimes how graphic and violent, you know, some of this stuff could be. Because, you know, by today's standards, it's like, whatever. You wouldn't bat an eye at, like, your 5-year-old seeing this. Because it's so,
he just comes in and you go, great, this is
you know,
awesome.
immature by today's
Have this
standards.
confidence that, you know, he's going to go away and come back with something spectacular.
And I don't know why they had that censored back
Johnny
there.
Cage Nut Crunch, I believe.
Johnny Cage Nut Crunch, he seems like the coolest dude out of all of
Didn't someone
them.
make a candy bar, Johnny Cage Nut Crunch bar?
John Tobias and some of the other guys from the Mortal Kombat team happened to just come up to me and, you know, kind of poke on my arm and say, do you want to do a character? And I said,
This
"I don't know,
FMV looks
okay."
especially good on the gamepad, as you might
People don't
assume.
realize that there is a lot of work done in the actual.
It's a much more fit screen for this
characters in the
quality of
costume. I've never
video.
asked John for a character that looks like something. He shows me something and says, what do you think of
But yeah,
that?
it's
I go,
funny to
"That's
see them
great."
talk
See,
about
the
like how
inspiration they
advanced
put
or
on
how
the
like
characters
violently these things
come
could be
from all over the
perceived,
place.
but
I
it's
mean,
even funnier
They come from movies I've
uh,
seen when I was a kid. They come from books
to
I've
think
read,
about
and
how
everybody gets
crazy like the
inspiration from
Clintons
somewhere.
were over this type of shit. These were the games that like Bill and Hillary Clinton were trying to get video games banned over. These games are too sexy and too violent.
The character here, that's sort of like
This is the
funded
most
me
graphic
going
thing
to,
I've ever seen.
You know, going to school because I wanted to be an artist like all my life.
As with all the Mortal Kombat games, the characters are definitely the most interesting of any fighting game.
Hey, get out of here, man. It's supposed to be
Between Sector and Raiden, who would win? Sector's got it.
Raiden would win.
Sector's got it in the bag.
Raiden would
Don't
win.
even try to. That's totally got it in the bag. No. Get your try from even trying to settle this outside, man. Come on. You're in for it now, buddy. Come on, pal. Come on.
And yeah, in some cases they would just have like the dudes,
staring at a blank wall for a little while, and then
you know, putting on
after a
costumes. So
while,
for the
something
most
will
part
hit
they
me,
got
I'll just
like
start sketching around
actors,
different ideas.
performers.
We went months and months not having names for these characters, and then we'd have these powwow sessions where everybody would kind of throw out names.
Shang Tsung.
Look at that Cybot.
Hey, you know where Shang Tsung?
Cybot
Combinations
and
for Shang
Havoc.
Tsung.
But maybe it was a military prototype. And the other one was just like a security guard at a mall that didn't work out right.
Cybot X11.
These dudes look like
There goes
like some
Excellent.
background
See,
characters in
anything
that
with
70s
X,
show.
There
it goes.
Cybot. That's the bias backwards.
Yeah, no, but I think it sounds cool.
That does sound cool.
Everybody says Sabot.
That could be a good name for the robot.
Cybot.
We're gonna have Mayo as the secret character.
No Cybot.
Oh man, why?
DEFCON is overused.
Yeah, and there's the origin for
I've heard that
Noob
so many
Cybot.
Yeah, every time you watch War Games.
Yeah, well, you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna come up with all the names. We're all gonna like them, and Ed's gonna hate every one of them.
95%.
It's the two last names back together. Ed Boon, Boon backwards is Noob, and whatever the other guy is, Tobias. Tobias backward is Cybot.
I guess that's a no.
I forget the other guy's first name because it's not as memorable as Tobias.
That's good.
Don't show that to me.
When we started filming a character, we'd get into work probably roughly around 10 o'clock, and usually the whole filming process takes, all day.
Oh, an average day of a 14-hour shoot. Let's see. Well, we came in and got into makeup. It didn't take too long for Sonya. She doesn't wear much.
And then we have a list. Huge
And yeah,
list
her
of
whole
information,
gig up to this
tips,
point was
punches,
basically just
uppercuts,
hot video game
the special
FMV
moves
girl.
and stuff.
If you
And
needed
we
a
basically
really
go down
hot
that list,
blonde lady for your
capturing every
80s
single
porn game
frame
FMV
of,
cutscene,
of
right?
them
Sonya
performing
Blade
these
was your
moves.
gal. I guess until she started getting that Sonya Blade money and was just like, you know what, I'm better than this.
Hi, Raiden. Hi, Sector.
1, 2, back.
Yeah, that's good. Let's try that one.
You have to do each move 8 ways. As you see, a joystick goes 8 different ways. So if I was to do a front kick, I'd have to do it frontwards, backwards, sideways, and diagonal 4 different ways.
This is why we have the tape on the floor, just to keep them facing the right direction.
Here's the camera that takes in the signal. We run signals into our beta cam recorder, and we also run a signal here into our PC. And then on our PC here, we have one of our boards connected to that. And also, this is where we do the actual grabbing of frames to be digitized. You can kind of see our talent out there, and I'll really quickly grab some images of them. That's good, Tony. We're able to click through frame by frame, delete the frames we don't want, keep the frames that we do like. As a matter of fact, you know what we should do?
That's pretty neat.
We should shove them. We should have done that from day one. Somebody just push them real hard.
We should all right, now the next animation, just stand there.
And so see, that's the type of shit that even like, you know, sophisticated equipment 20 years later can't do if it's not specialized for it.
You know, like
None of my gadgets
the
can,
entire
you know what I
amount of
mean?
time
I
that has
guess
to
I
be
could
devoted into
screenshot
doing it.
Once we get the digitized
this
image,
live
it's a
footage
lot.
here, but I
It's a
don't know.
lot less
I'd have to get
painting.
like macros, or I'd
And
have
right
to
now
find
we're
some
going
kind of
through a
specific
process
program to,
we sort of
you know,
filter the
capture
images
frame
through.
by frame by
We'll grab
frame
the
as it's
image,
playing.
and Steve Baran will
Otherwise,
start
I'd have to do it very
and
slowly and
do some
manually.
Photoshop on the guy, and then we'll hand him over to Tony, who does some touch-up. And then it
But
gets
see, if you
passed
just
over
want
to
like
me,
a
and then I do
machine
some
that
of
can
this
do that
more
button by
detailed
button, those
touch-up,
types of
and then I
things
give it
are
back to
expensive.
Steve, and he kind of separates the different
I was looking
colors
to get
and
myself something
creates the
called
different
a
palettes,
video
and then we give it back
modulator
Tony,
to the
and he
ends of
does the
speed
final touch-up
running
and stuff and gets it ready for the game.
Syphonfilter in January, because I have a fastest PS2 and I have a European PAL region copy of Syphonfilter, which that's the way you want to speed run it. Because, you know, faster loading times and screen tearing and all this nonsense, but you know, aside from being a struggle to get it set up, once I do, because it's PAL region, even if I adjust the screen as much as I possibly can, it still, you know, hangs down like the bottom 10% of the screen off the bottom. And the only way to fix that, analog or digital, however, would be through like a contraption called a modulator. But even like an affordable, basic consumer level modulator is like $400. That's like the cheapest you could get one. It's a good thing though for video production. It can basically take any signal, analog or digital, from like 8 different sources, and it can output it to any of those 8 same sources. But it lets you in real time, like if I wanted to like stretch this widescreen, shrink the box down, make it vertical video, I could do that all in real time right now with some knobs. But the device that does that is super expensive. And he can even fix like the actual screen tearing. So when like there's an image hanging below the screen, right, like it's not the full image on the screen, it can actually pull that image up. It can detect the entirety of the frame information, I guess, the whole image as it is, and it can like scroll up. Old school TVs used to do that, like, you know, your grandma or your great-grandma's TV with all the knobs. It would have a knob that would like reel it up or down, and it was specifically for that. Sometimes the camera signal would be coming in too low and you'd only get like the top half of the screen, so you'd work that knob and like adjust it up or down. That's why old PS1 games and things like that often had a setting for specifically that. They would pull more of the image from wherever it actually was off screen. And what these video modulators can do is exactly that. I could pull this video all the way top off the screen if I wanted to, or stretch it out like I said. But that's expensive equipment.
When you use the run button, it makes you aggressive towards your opponent. You're gonna have to keep on using the run over and over and over.
And yeah, I agree that this was like the last, I wouldn't say this is the last good Nintendo console, but I would say that this is the last great Nintendo console. The Switch just doesn't compete. It's a good little thing. It's a nice little thing to have, but I don't think it compares to the Wii U or the Switch or the Nintendo 3DS. Hardware and software capabilities, obviously it surpasses them, but it just lacks everything that made the Wii U and 3DS good Nintendo consoles.
Each player presses block twice.
And as for non-gaming, I mean, I am on my Wii U right now.
And it turns off blocking.
This is the Midway Arcade FMV, so
or you're gonna lose because there's no way you can block anybody's hits.
there we go. But yeah, that's the type of equipment these guys are working with, and this shit is high-end, even if it is like 20, 30 years old.
This is the sound area.
See, what do you call that? I just pressed some buttons. How's that for gaming?
You try to imagine the action of playing the game and what the music's gonna do to like get you revved up.
I like to get really stoned and play Street Fighter to get an idea of what I want to do for this game.
Through the backgrounds, I just look at that and try to get some idea about the kind of mood, the kind of setting that we're trying to.
That being said, that little gadget is on my list. I do plan on getting one of those eventually. Because at this point, the only other alternative would be to buy a PAL region PS2 and then a cable to convert that, which could run me a couple $100 anyway. May as well buy a video modulator that can just do all types of shit on top of correcting that. If I really want it to be reliable though, I also have to hard mod it. I have to do some soldering in order to
That's Ed Boon, pitch down a few semicolons.
You know, let it read the PAL region disk without
So, I mean, in the movie, he's scored
me having to do the disk swapping glitch, which I might get into that, you know, when the speedrun comes up. Just like as a little fun fact.
You know, Shao Kahn was played by Steve Ritchie, who is the king, as we all know him.
But,
pinball designer.
Flawless victory.
Sorry, I
Basically,
got
everyone has
distracted by
a
that
set
dude's
of
hair.
speech
Was it a
calls
mullet? Was
for,
it a buzz
attacking,
cut? I
you know,
couldn't
punching,
tell.
Getting hit.
I guess that's why they
you know,
call him
getting
the
hit in
king, they
face,
said.
Getting hit in the body.
No, yeah, but I'll get me one of them little gizmos eventually, but hopefully in time for next year's speedrun, but probably not.
After that's when it's been out.
Because like I said, I'd rather get like a camera or something first, especially for things like this. Sometimes I feel like actually visibly, physically emoting or reacting, and it's just like I can't. Sometimes I do anyway, and it's just like, well, who am I doing this for? There's nothing to see me. But like I said, I have a standard for those things, so I don't want to do those things until I'm comfortable I can do them well. So it's not even about like a reveal type of thing, it's just like it just doesn't make sense right now.
We have one piece of hardware that has a particular size of RAM and a CD-ROM.
With luck though, I'll become a full-blown Markiplier ripoff sooner than later.
Of sound data have to come off of the CD-ROM into the RAM of the machine.
I don't even mind plugging Markiplier on my own content because it's just like, I fucking love Markiplier. His channel would be better if he wasn't dying and in the hospital every other month. I hate waiting for a new Markiplier upload and it's just like, hey guys, I'm in the hospital, I love you. Like, shut the fuck up and play video games, you animal. I'm not really too sure what's wrong with him. I just know I see him in the hospital like at least once or twice a year. Hey guys, I'm back in the hospital.
Push the third symbol down one. You'll get a new exclusive PSX code. Don't think we're going to tell you what it is. We'll just let
Find out on your own. Who's the best? Who's the best? Who's the best? Man, who's the best, man? You're the best, man. No, man. You're the best, man.
I'll find something else to linger on for like a good 10 minutes, and then we'll get into the Chow Garden, and I'll actually start doing stuff. I just really enjoy doing stuff like this. The 3DS, on the other hand, I don't have a capture card for the 3DS, but my 3DS is also homebrewed, just like my Wii U is. So I should be able to use software to remotely broadcast both screens to my computer, and I should be able to stream them from there. If I stream them as separate windows, I should be able to get real creative with like the stream resolution and all that too. But because it'll be native actual 3DS, it's gonna look like hell, you know? It's gonna look basically like this. But that means I'll be able to play things like Ocarina or Majora's Mask with the full gyroscope capabilities in play. I guess you can on an emulator too, if you have the right hardware, but let's not linger on here too long. We'll revisit Midway again, though. I have to properly play most of the games on there. I don't remember any of the Cartoon Network things having particularly good FMV. Billy and Mandy, I think, had the most, but it just had like movie trailers. It had like a Happy Feet trailer, an Ant Bully trailer. Samurai Jack didn't really have too great of stuff on it. It had cool art, but not for what it was. Teen Titans was ass. Powerpuff was not that good. This was probably my favorite out of them. Although you can watch, you gotta watch my review if you want to hear an actual opinion about them. These don't really have nothing to offer. This one kind of does, but you gotta unlock a whole bunch of nonsense. Oh, I did play this on Halloween last year. Which I don't Do you want to use it? No, I don't want to use it. But now I need to use the Wii remote, but thankfully I've got it right here, so. And now I can just use my Pro Controller. Well, shoot. Oh yeah, well this is pretty good because of it had like some comics built into it. You can unlock, I think, like 2 or 3 different sets of comics. But, you know, it was like page by page or chapter by chapter, and you got to do all kinds of shit. I remember having a lot of fun with this game, though. Yeah, you get these weird-ass cutscenes. Oh, no, yeah, it's just the 2. Fucking tomorrow, people.
It is sometimes difficult to define normal. It was a normal day where normal people went about their normal business. Or was it? I don't think so. Normal things didn't fall from the sky. Just ask Icarus or the people of Dresden.
I don't care one way or the other, really.
Normal day. Nor would it be a day that these normal people would ever forget.
Decent enough stuff. It's a little more specific. Not something I particularly care about either, but I'm sure there's some comic book nerd out there that's just like, oh, well, actually, in the exclusive Marvel Nemesis Tomorrow People comic, there's this big purple motherfucker and this fucking crying ass kid with the dog.
Or how
So
anyone feels when the Grim Reaper turns up at your door, knowing your name.
who the fuck they get for this? And these movies too, like the cutscenes for the characters. Fucking Gelato.
Father was proclaimed to be a fabulous entertainer.
Oh my. That's they gasped, all right. Cheats. Well, that didn't work. Let me see if there's anything else that has maybe some cool content. There's that Metal Gear stuff, like I said. It's just like the mission briefing. It's like video briefing with the Colonel and Snake. But that's a little too specific as well. That's why I like that Midway FMV, because that's actually pretty cool stuff. And there's more stuff for other games, but no more so than for yeah, Mortal Kombat, obviously. There's my original Earthbound file. And yes, even if I don't pay for the Switch Online, I still always have the actual shit that I bought or dumped onto here. And I'll make a video, maybe like a short, about the covering the process of how I get these games on here to begin with, because I get them off my discs. The Wii U ones are pretty easy. I just pop the Wii U ones in here, but like the GameCube games, I gotta dump them onto the Wii first. And that's basically it, but yeah, like there's cool stuff like Zombie U, but it's not as cool if you can't see what I'm doing on the gamepad. And that's why I don't have Mario Kart on the Switch, because I bought it a long time ago when it was a brand new game. Same thing with Pokken Tournament. I'm not gonna rebuy these fucking Wii U games. I was there first. Don't watch other content creators, no way. There's no such thing as the angry nerd man. It's bullshit. And if I did do something like that on the Wii U, I'd want to record it properly, I would think. Now people can stop asking why I didn't stream HD. I got like 2 comments a stream about that while I was playing The Wind Waker. There was always at least a couple people talking about like, why aren't you playing The Wind Waker HD? Because I'm old. And yeah, see, you know, that's why I like having the games dumped, because I can look over and it's just propped up nice on my shelf in its box right next to Skyward Sword with its golden Wii remote. I never got the gold nunchuck or the gold Pro controller though. Or Classic Controller Pro, rather. They were both exclusive to the Nintendo shop, and I just didn't have the funds to buy the games, to have the points, to claim those particular rewards at that particular time. Fucking Nintendo exclusives. And of course, nowadays, you can only buy them secondhand for like $60, $70 or more. Not that I don't want one, but... And the gold Wii remote itself, of course, came with you know, Skyward Sword and the soundtrack. Which, funny enough, the Wii couldn't even play, you know, because the Wii didn't have CD functionality. It technically can read the discs. It can read whatever's burned onto a CD. But you would have to homebrew it and install software that could read it. Same thing with like your PC. If you've got a PC that's, it can read data off of whatever it's got a compatible disk drive for, and it can launch the data on it just as well as it could anything else. Right, so if you have like a PS2 game that you want to play, but your PS2's broken or whatever the fuck, you can download an emulator on your PC, and then you don't even have to bootleg the game. If you've got the physical one, you can just pop in like your, you know, Final Fantasy or something, and then just launch, you know, the ROM from the disk drive. You know, because any disk drive that's DVD compatible is going to be able to read it. That's all it is. I've also played a lot of fighting games, but I've refrained from pretty much all of them on the channel because it's just a weird thing to... It's a weird context. I can't really do it the way I do other things, but like... Pokken Tournament's fun, Monster Hunter's fun, and then I love Tekken. I should load Tekken Tag 2 so you can see what the fuck I was talking about if you were there for Skyward Sword. Where's Heihachi? And again, I'd also just like to record this over stream it because this looks a lot nicer than it's looking on the stream right now. Because I can't stream full HD 60 FPS, so. What I'm looking at is a lot nicer than what you're looking at. But I can record it and show you exactly what it looks like. And I love that they added like my 2 favorite songs from this game on Smash Bros with Kazuya. Man, the fact that they dropped Kazuya specifically too. I'm better with, you know, certain characters over Kazuya, but I'm really good with Kazuya, and that fucking hurricane kick that he does, that triple spinning kick where he high kicks you and then leg sweeps you and then just mid kicks you like in a one spiraling motion. I get to do that in Smash Bros now, and to me that's hilarious. Because anyone who's ever played Tekken with me knows that as soon as I pick Kazuya, they're just gonna get whirlwind kicked. And the worst part is that I can do like a whole bunch of other stuff with them. So the second they counter it, I just hit some fancy ass combo, reset the stage, and then just go back to doing it just because I know they hate it. And now I can do the exact same thing in Smash Bros. They made it just as easy too. And it doesn't look too bad on the stream. It's mostly just the frames per second that suffers. Wii U edition. Whoops. Oh. I thought I could just find a CPU real quick. Fucking Snoop Dogg.
Get ready for the next battle.
Go be cruel to some animals in the same place where we fought Demise. The moment you are grabbed by your opponent for a throw, quickly input the proper buttons in response to throw. So it's you. What kind of beef does he have with these animals?
Round one. Fight. Round two. Fight.
What? I guess that's good. Anyway, let me just jump onto some Chow Garden now. That's all fun and good, though. In the next few days, I might actually test, you know, some of those features, see if I can actually successfully stream the Wii U gamepad. Or at least record it. What am I looking for? Lornick. And yeah, it looks like the Twilight Princess upload's still going to be probably a couple hours. It probably won't be actually uploaded and visible until late. It is, you know, a large video file, I guess, that it was working off of.
File select.
Select a stage. Who will you be?
Yeah, this is the shiny jewel one.
Don't worry, buddy.
It's a cool ass chow right there.
Don't worry, buddy.
And here's my secret to aging chow without them dying. Boom. Because normally they'll just waddle away to the shore eventually and they'll climb out. But if you hit them with this one, they get stuck behind that tree branch right there. And they never move. And a chow year is like 3 or 4 hours, something like that. So after about 15 to 20 hours, after like 20 hours, give or take, that's usually long enough for your chow to start dying or reincarnating or whatever. Which I have in-depth guides on each thing separated. An evolution and breeding guide, followed by a death and reincarnation guide, followed by a Chaos Chow specific guide. And then again, if you click on the home, if you click on the channel, like the third video you'll see under the screen, or, you know, on the topic and variety playlist, you know, it's like the 30-minute video where I cover like the whole process where like I made all of these chow, all the Chaos Chow that you're seeing. Because it's not a terribly hard thing to do. And yeah, you have to stand there, but... But like I said, it just takes so long that it can be real troublesome. And yeah, a lot of people are gonna like overnight their Chow to age them, but the problem with that is always gonna be like, what if it dies while you're not paying attention? What if it wasn't actually set to... Yeah, what if it wasn't actually set to reincarnate and it just dies instead? That prevents all that. You can leave them in there for, you know, 10, 20 hours if you want total. And even if they're flagged to die or do anything else, they literally can't start to die or reincarnate or anything until, you know, they reach solid ground and can get into that animation. As long as they're stuck in that one position, you're good. So you can load it up the next morning, pick them up, and then even if they're set to die, even if their happiness and everything went down, you can just fucking gaslight them. Make them like you and, you know, be done with it. There we go. Yeah, so if you ever played this game growing up, you got to some of these harder races and were like, what the fuck is that thing? With some of these, you know, more crazy looking chaos Chow. You know, follow my guide. Pretty easy way to do it. Learn the whole thing in like 15 minutes. And then watch me cover the whole process basically in like 30 with that other video. Makes for a good series. The idea is that every game that's been played on the channel like that should have a series relative to that. Right? Pokemon, the goal is to have the same thing eventually for things like RNG manipulation, things like Pokemon breeding, or just advanced mechanics, all the things that came into play by the end of the summer streaming. But clearly that hasn't happened yet, but it's going to specifically for Pokemon. That's already guaranteed. But the idea is that everything should have a series of pieces like that. So like Ocarina and Majora's Mask, anybody who's willing to watch me play all of Ocarina of Time on the gameplay series, what ends up being like 5 hours between all the videos, or like 6 almost, they'll undoubtedly be willing to watch me play Majora's Mask as well. If not the GameCube games like, you know, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. So at the very least I can count on those two kind of working in tandem as their own series. And in between them there should be like a review piece for each one. Maybe something a little more, something a little less serious, or something a little less brainy for each one, and then maybe like a big video for like the whole series eventually. Right, there's like a good handful of videos that I could squeeze just out of the 64 Zeldas. And when it comes to stuff like that, that could be a lot more of what you can expect next year. And that's a big part of the reason why the gameplay series is taking a big shift. Away from being the spotlight of streams. I want more of the streams that I do next year to be shorter and maybe just slightly less frequent, at least once or twice a week still. But instead of like 3 times a week for like 3 to 5 hours, only like a couple of hours a couple of times a week. But it'll be a lot more social, a lot more gabby like this. I'll make more of a point of actually playing games. It's not just gonna be me goofing around on one thing or another. We'll see if this one can win without me encouraging it while I go pee real quick, but we'll do this one. The fucking Chow Rangers, all 5 of them? Anyway, I'll be right back. One thing I may do throughout this period of time as well is I might revisit Pokemon, because I have a Charizard planned out. A full competitive Charizard this time. Not just like not the level of competitive I did for the streams, but like full-on perfect IVs, controlled hidden power, and everything. I'm going for a shiny, perfect Charizard, basically, with like hidden power. I think I settled on water. You know, just to give him a good 70 power water option. But because that Pokemon video is taking so long, it's taking me so long to even get to it while maintaining the series content up at this point, I'll probably look back on those streams and try to go for the RNG breeding, because RNG breeding is very much a similar process to the rest of it. The only thing that makes it more of a challenge, though, is that you have to do 2 frame perfect inputs. You have to do a perfect frame input upon receiving the egg, first of all. No, you have to get a frame perfect input upon generating the egg. Right, that generates like the batch that it's in. And then you have to get another one right after upon receiving the egg. Right, so as to determine which egg you get out of the batch that you landed on. So it's the same thing, but having to do it twice, you know, for one Pokemon makes it, you know, very challenging. Or a very high chance of failure, at least. And because of the way that, like, reverse calculating the stats to find out the values, to find out exactly which one you landed on, so that you can properly calibrate your timer if you were 1 frame off or 2 frames off, whatever it was, you need to know that. Here comes the ultimate rival, it's him. But yeah, that can be a real pain, but I might try that just to get a little Pokemon in here to make up for the fact that the big Pokemon video not only didn't come out at the end of summer, but that it won't even be out this year because it's just, you know, I had to wrap up what I was doing, I had to get a move on with the streams, I had to do Zelda. But that's why, like I started saying before, that's why we're changing up the flow of streams. Gameplay series oriented streams will only happen maybe like 2 to 4 times a year, I'm thinking, like 2 to 5 times a year. So maybe like once a season, right? Once every 3 months, once a quarter, whatever you want to call it. I can do a full gameplay series. One of those is always going to be Syphonfilter. Boom. And then, you know, I could reserve it for like the big ones, right? Like Zelda, maybe more Pokemon, maybe Sonic. Because real talk, high key, like, I want to say maybe like 18, almost 20% of my subscriber base is all from one of those Sonic videos, if not one of the series or the related shorts. Then it's from like that big video specifically or one of the guides. That's why I did that Shadow review before I got too into all the other streams, because I wanted to, more than anything, I wanted to make a point of giving the Sonic crowd something to be like, I swear to God, I promise Sonic is coming back. There's still a lot of Sonic to be had. We can always revisit the Chow Garden. I want to make more of a habit of this. I'm not going to put any real effort into it right now, but tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but either Thursday or Friday, I'll revisit this. I'm not sure yet. I'll decide closer to those days, but on Thursday or Friday, it'll either be more Chow Garden. It might be a little bit of Goose Game, or it might be Risk of Rain 2. Just because it's been like a month since I've really played that now, and I could go for some Risk of Rain 2 right now. I almost beat it. I've gotten real close. I just gotta beat that last dude. But to that end, that's what it'll free up. Because the thing about streaming stuff like this, more casual streams, it's not to say that it won't be worthwhile. It's not to say that it'll be like low effort content or anything like that. But by nature of what it'll be, let's do some karate actually. But by nature of like what those streams will be, me doing things like playing less substantial games or like bite-sized games or like fighting games like I've been wanting to play that don't exactly have a whole lot to hyper focus on the way that I do when I play a story-driven game, for example, like the 40 hours worth of streaming that I got out of Skyward Sword, all narrative-based. Let's just do the medium mode, see how bad we fuck up these other guys. If Chow is discouraged, press the A button to cheer him up. I thought Chow were genderless. That's like the same kind of Chow mine is, except mine is shiny and fully evolved. But yeah, the main thing with what that means though, playing games that can be played ad nauseum, things like Risk of Rain 2, things like Arcade Fighters, or bite-sized experiences like Untitled Goose Game, or just other like small indie titles, even things like Mind Scanners, which we streamed on Halloween. They can not only be gotten out of the way faster, I can play them for less time, less often, and still be done with them in like half the time it took me to play a game like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword. But because it won't be gameplay series stuff that I plan on making reviews or anything like that out of, I won't have to spend any time at all reviewing it, not in the same way at least. If I want to download something and make like a quick little bit of content just on a whim, you know, naturally, that might still happen. But it won't take time being reviewed. And that will give me time to review those big games, like I said, 2 to 5 times a year. more in depth. It also means that if a game like Shin Megami Tensei 5, which can take like 100 hours just to play normally, not even doing extra stuff, assuming you watch all the cutscenes and such, fucking stinky. It means that even if it takes me like 2 or 3 months to get out of the way, it doesn't really run into anything else in that way. And if I ever want to break for it for something less substantial, right, stream this big game for like a month, take a break from it for 2 weeks, and then come back to it, you know, so be it. And I can take my time reviewing it, editing it, to get all this substantial content like the topics and all that. And I can still stream in a way that's more social. What's the party race then? I could technically race some of my Chow against each other. Put like Jello up against Chaos, but I'd have to get a second GameCube memory card. I'd have to dupe the save files. I think I can access a second memory card here, but that would mean having to move my SD card to my computer and putting the files in the right places though. But I could literally just duplicate this save file and boom boom, have my Chows race against each other, test the luck mechanic. And especially going into this next year specifically, because there are a lot of gameplay series games that have not gotten their topics, that can free up a lot of my editing time in between just nonsense or, you know, more casual streaming. And I can get some of these videos out of the way. Because like I said, it's not like I won't engage during streams normally. But with gameplay series stuff, I'm always very careful not to spend too much time doing or saying anything that isn't really relevant to, you know, the immediate task. More so than anything because it just makes for very, very long and tedious editing. Oh, see, they disappear behind them. That's scary. Oh no. Because I would really like to touch on Majora's Mask. You know, it never got its proper review. Because I didn't want to just follow it up and have it seem like just a copy-paste of the Ocarina review. I want it to be distinct while still in the same style. And then beyond that, I'd like to touch on Majora's Mask and its side quests specifically, highlighting of course the big ones like the Cafe quest, as well as like major events that revolve around it, right? The major events that make up the major story outside of the main story. Because that's what Majora's Mask is real good at doing. I don't know that I could think of anything else for Ocarina of Time specifically, but beyond that, I'd also like to do a retrospective piece on the Nintendo 64 titles as a, you know, as a solo thing, as a group. Because there's so many people out there that are way too comfortable with dropping like a 45-minute retrospect, or like a 2 or 3 hour long sometimes retrospective piece on a single game like Ocarina of Time. Like, I don't care how in-depth and personal you're getting with it, it shouldn't take more than like an hour to get really, really in-depth with Ocarina of Time, let alone 2 or 3. And that's being real generous, I think. I was struggling for stuff to say, you know, relevant stuff to say to the topic with my like 18-minute long video. So anybody yapping about Ocarina for like 2 hours is just saying garbage ad nauseum, I think. So to that end, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing a retrospective on it just by itself, but I would do one on Ocarina and Majora's Mask in the context of them being the 2 Zelda titles on the N64. And even then, I probably wouldn't drag that longer than like an hour and some change, you know, probably less than 80 minutes. Because there'd only be so much I could say about either one that wouldn't make, you know, either review redundant. But also, you know, I'd want to stick to a relevant point. I'd want an overall theme, you know, looking back at them. A greater takeaway and, you know, revolve topics around that. Because like I said, a lot of people by comparison are just really, really overly comfortable with just yapping about a bunch of nonsense for like 3 hours in between the occasional somewhat relevant factoid. And even then, a lot of these times you watch some of these retrospectives and half the video is just the person describing what's literally happening on screen in order. Like not even giving opinion on it, but, you know, just literally being like, you swim across the lake, you walk up the stairs, you go into the house, you talk to this character, and then you have to do the temple. You know, it's just like, I can see that happening on the screen, bro. Like, you just wasted like 5 minutes of my life. To that end, that Pokemon video will probably end up a little shorter than what I thought. I was going for somewhere between 55 minutes and like an hour and 10 minutes. But now I'm thinking it'll probably be somewhere more between like 45 and 55 minutes. Because if you watch that vibe track, the Gen 3 music compilation, which I don't know if I linked to that in the description. I probably didn't. I think I'm only plugging Syphonfilter in the description. If you click on the description, yeah, you'll see the Syphonfilter speedrun, and then you'll see the playlist where I have all the Syphonfilter gameplay series stuff. So the trilogy, the soundtrack analysis, the soundtrack medley, and everything else. But on that Pokemon one, if you were to watch it, you may notice that the Gale of Darkness segment is kind of longer than almost everything else in the video. So to that end, that'll probably get cut by a lot whenever I actually do dubbing over it. But I also don't want to get out of the habit of like doing voice work, because it's getting closer to a year than I'd like to the last actual scripted piece that I did, being that Shadow the Hedgehog review. And it's a different form factor, and I'd really like to not get out of the habit. And so to that end, I feel like it'll be better for production overall, as well as growth, if I do a lot of those videos in series. Oh, and here's what you can do with the infinite bullshit. It's easier with animals because they don't float around all crazy. Damn. There's your glitch. Don't walk up to them so that they grab it. Place it in front of them so that it just taps them and they interact with it. There's also like a specific order that you can do it in. The right group of animals in the right order, in the right amounts to get you up the fastest, to get you maxed out the fastest, I mean. So yeah, to that end, the games that I stream for the gameplay series will likely be of, you know, let's say like a higher caliber than more notable titles, more popular titles, or at the very least more substantial titles, games that might take more than just 5 or 10 hours to beat. Those games will come along like, again, like once a quarter, once every few months, in between whatever else I think to stream with them. Bayonetta. But I also plan on... It probably won't even be that frequent, though. At least not streaming them. At least, like, 2 will be streamed, maybe 3. But out of, like, let's say 5 then. 2 or 3 may be streamed, and then 1 or 2 will likely be recorded. Specifically for just quality reasons, and also very specific recording reasons. It's a lot easier to record a game than it is to stream it. Even if no one's really watching, and even if I really kind of do it the same way, it is different to do it live for an audience. You know, just by its format, than it is to, you know, pick it up and play it whenever you want in complete isolation in that way. It matters for various stylistic reasons as well as, you know, just production reasons. The main reason, of course, is like video quality. If I were ever to play something like, say, Armored Core, you know, I can't have that running at 30 FPS and expect somebody to stomach it. There's already people who don't like watching things that aren't 4K and like 120 FPS, right? So, if I ever played something like Super HD on the Xbox, for quality purposes, I would want that to be recorded so that I could record it in HD. The only real problem with that is that with certain titles, it's just like, I feel like one title might actually do alright as a stream. It's definitely easier to rack up hours streaming compared to, you know, the video content, the long form content, but despite how much I stream, you know, it's important to remember that the actual videos, the published works that I do, that's the real meat of it. And that is to say, the idea being that if you enjoyed watching me stream Twilight Princess or The Wind Waker, for example, the goal is that you should love the abridged series then, because it's everything that would have been good or relevant or worth seeing or hearing condensed to a very reasonable amount. It goes beyond just working it down to usable footage. I usually work it down to usable footage, and then I work that down, right? I copy paste the whole editing bay, and then I work that down to, isn't this it? That's just, yeah, I thought there was something else. Yeah. I work it down to like the most usable footage for my sake. You know, I whittle it down as close to the final video as possible anyway. But then usually what I do while it's still in order, before I sort it by like category and things like that, I just take that big chunk, I duplicate it, and then I whittle that down into what ends up being the YouTube videos. And it goes beyond, at that point it's already good stuff and I've got it set aside. So I don't need to worry about like cataloging it. So I cut it down for viewability too, because some people, I know a lot of people don't really mind the longer video formats, but I feel like it's unreasonable. I feel like there's no point in abridging something if it's still going to be like 8 or 9 or 10 plus hours. The single longest abridgment on my channel is like maybe 3 hours. Well, yeah, it is 3 hours. It's the Wind Waker one. But, you know, there are longer series like Shin Megami Tensei 5 as a series. If you look at it, it's like almost 5 hours. Ocarina and Majora's Mask are both like 5 or 6 hours. But those are in parts. You know, I feel like it's better. The only downside to that is that if you don't have like ad-free stuff, once my channel, say my channel blows up and they actually start putting ads on like everything, only very, very specific things on my channel, I guess YouTube bothers putting ads on, like my speedrun and my guides, specifically because those keywords are in the title. So I guess they're going to push it on those regardless. But that would be the only downside is, you know, if you hate ads, if you click on one like my Ocarina playlist, it's like 8 videos covering 6 hours of me playing this game. So that's about as long as I would do it. And even then, it's in parts. When I do like a singular part, the longest I'd probably ever get it to is like this one for the Wind Waker, 3 hours. That's why I split the Twilight Princess stuff into 2, because there's so many cutscenes that are relevant and worth seeing, that it makes more sense to drop like a couple multi-hour parts. This one is like 2 hours, I think. And then the next part, I haven't finished editing all that. That'll be done by like the end of December probably. A little sooner most likely, but that'll be like 5 or 6 hours by itself. Skyward Sword will probably be the same way. Go back to the menu, see what else is here. And yeah, Skyward Sword will probably be the same way because it's a lot of cutscenes. A lot of it can be skipped though. They got just really cinematic and really ambient with a lot of them. They showed off a lot of the soundtrack and whatnot. But even with that being said, it would probably still run as long as like Twilight Princess is going to overall. In that same way though, as much as I possibly can, whenever I'm doing things in multiple parts for the gameplay series, I try to give them some kind of standalone value. It's always in hopes that you'll watch the whole thing, I guess, but it should all be substantial enough that you can click on any random part, or if you happen to stumble upon any random part of Ocarina of Time, for example, you'll know it's in the middle of more stuff, but it might be worth watching, you know, just like part 4 or 5 in and of itself or something, you know. That's the idea, at least. But as you've seen, if you've watched the streams and kept up with what we've been doing, it can take a while. On average, it takes me about 50 or 60% longer to review and edit footage than that footage actually runs. Right, so if you look at the live streams way back for like Twilight Princess, however many streams it was, I think it was like 7. Yeah, 7 of them. It covers like 39 hours, almost 40 hours total. which means it's going to take me like a 50, or it's going to take me like 60 or 70 hours to be fully reviewed with it, which seems about right. All the time that I've put into this beginning part, it's been coming up to like probably a couple dozen hours. So maybe not quite that long, because I have gotten a little more brisk with it, but especially because it's older stuff from like 7 months ago, 7-8 months ago now. You know, I hadn't gotten used to streaming as well as I have now. Reviewing that Pokemon stuff especially really gave me perspective in real time of like when it's best to just kind of interspritz dialogue, when it's best to just say nothing, and when it's best to like talk a lot. And I've gotten a lot better with that too, which is mostly good for my editing, because then it means that I don't have to review dialogue over long periods of dead footage. They really defined her nipples in that suit. They really had to, you know what I mean? They couldn't show the full breast on the one character, so they made up for it with the nips on the other one. Who's fucking making these games, man? It's him. It's Ganondorf making them. There he is. But, yeah, so at that point, there's still like a lot of just indiscriminate dialogue. But, you know, the Pokemon stuff got me a lot better at like filtering it out. And one thing that I had to get used to over time, that I just wasn't used to from back in the day with recording stuff, was just the simple fact that the streams are already out there. So if somebody legitimately cares that much that they'd want to hear every little thing that I had to say about everything that I did in Twilight Princess, they can review the 40 hours of streams if they want. They can watch all that. It's already there. Which some people enjoy that. Some people don't mind that as much. Or some people just want the noise. But if you want to reasonably and practically just watch the highlights effectively, all the important stuff still, though, that's what the abridgments are for.
You are not even worth killing.
Flambert. Fucking flambe. I love good arcade ambience. Yeah, you'll probably see a good number of fighting games next year. I doubt I'll touch on anything like air conditioner. I doubt I'll touch on anything like you know, Smash Bros, or anything that's too dependent on like a big series, especially Smash Bros, because that one's kind of a big deal. But yeah, this is some ambience. Damn.
Victory is mine.
Victory is my...
Soul Calibur 2.
Todd McFarlane. Isn't that the Spawn guy? Well, Spawn was a character on the Xbox version. But why would they put him on the GameCube version? Why don't they have Shigeru Miyamoto on there? Satoru Iwata. Rekimaru and Mekimaru. Well, yeah, you can still expect plenty of streams, but we'll be a lot more liberal with what we stream. Like I said, more casual experiences, more repetitive experiences, if not more bite-sized experiences. But every so often we'll drop like that big series once again. And then the ones that I want to be really, really HD, or the ones that I have a really specific reason to record a very specific way, is... are the ones that are going to be like really HD usually. The ones that I just would feel really bad about them coming in at like a diminished quality. For this, I don't mind because a lot of these games already ran at like 30 or 24 FPS even. Games like a lot of arcade fighters typically did run at 60 FPS. That wasn't uncommon either. But they were still typically designed in such a way that they were more likely than not going to be viewed in that way at like a lower quality on a CRT television. So it doesn't look bad whenever it's diminished to the lower frame rate or the resolution, because it kind of is already designed to compensate for it. On the flip side, though, if I were to record this at the 60 FPS, you would be able to see how good or how bad, however you choose to look at it, these games could actually look.
A tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
Right, because with its full capabilities, you know, the HD progressive scan and the 60 FPS and all that, and a monitor that can display it properly, it does look very, very nice for what it is. But especially with progressive scan on an HD monitor, you can see how pixelated it really is. It's a little fuzzier without the progressive scan, which of course would look much, much better on the fuzzier, glowier CRT monitor. And there's also things like this. You know, I love talking about the Wii U, the consoles, the modifications, and things like that by themselves. And this will give me more avenue to, you know, touch on stuff like this. I'd like to be able to hang around on the Wii U as much as I would any individual game for it. But we'll get a little more into that. I might do 1 or 2 streams like this, you know, just casual hanging out between now and then. And then the other ones will be something more dedicated. You can expect Risk of Rain 2, a little Skyrim, some Goose Game. And then, like I said, we'll probably replay some stuff. I might go back on some Nightfire, might go back on some Rogue Ops if I can get a crowd for it, just to show it off, because I plugged Rogue Ops for a long time, just because the main thing is that I had moved apartments around the time, like a month or 2 before that, and it was a much better environment, and I was a lot more comfortable. I'm a lot more comfortable doing it where I am now than where I was before. So I just feel like the overall performance that I could give, even if it didn't sound too different, was, you know, just better and a little more consistent. So I think that's why I ended up plugging that so much for so long. But it is funny, at least to a person like me. I guess we can close on that, because I was looking on something to wrap up anyway. I'll show you a little bit of how corny Rogue Ops is. It's M-rated. It has a female protagonist, but you can tell that it's not written by, like, women at all. And it's, you know, like a 2000s edgy Mission Impossible, Metal Gear Solid, rip-off wannabe sort of game. So, like, it's just, you know, it's like a whole-ass concoction just waiting to boil over. It's a horrible combination of a bunch of terrible things. And to me, it just comes across as hilarious. It's like Shadow the Hedgehog if it were an M-rated title that was demeaning to women. I guess she's not the worst female protagonist. She herself isn't all that bad. It's just, you know, everything else around her that's like overly exaggerated, you know, the language and everything. That just kind of drives it up the wall and makes it too corny. I guess the idea was to make her like the type of tough-ass lady that doesn't care about those things, but it's just like... you know, it's corny, which to me comes across as funny. The gameplay is passable. It's far from the worst game I've ever played. I'd even call it fun. In some extent, it's just very simple fun. Can I choose a mission? Yeah. Do we get our intro cutscene? Talking about
Only
killing
one
my
part
fucking
of this
husband.
matters to me. I don't even know if I remember all of it. But I remember how it started. Exactly. Because it almost drove me insane. Istanbul. Every time
Istanbul.
I close my eyes, I'm back there. Michael and Amy. Oh God, Amy.
Oh God, every
Then
time
I
you
wake up
close
to
your eyes, you're in Istanbul.
Nothing but a need to know why my family had to die. Looking for answers, but uncovering a world of lies. And at its heart, Jacobson. I couldn't believe the man
Markinson.
he described was my husband. Michael, an agent, an assassin for the government, for Phoenix. We all get what we want. Jacobson wanted me to work for him, to join Phoenix and use my military training to wage war on terrorism. I wanted a chance to avenge my family, and Jacobson promised to give it to me. I've been with Phoenix 2 years now, waiting for that chance, getting stronger. Today, I find out if I'm strong enough.
It's time to prove you're fit for the field.
It's time to
Final
kill
training
your
session.
husband.
Are you ready?
I've been busting my ass for 2 years in this hellhole. What do you think, Jacobson?
I think that temper of yours could get you killed.
Then maybe, Colonel, I should leave.
The only way you leave here, Nicola, is by my green lighting your field operative status. Let's get on with this. There's someone I'd like you to meet.
You pass or you die.
This is Jonah. He's been with
Aw,
Phoenix from the start. He'll
shit.
be guiding you through the final training session. Listen to
This
him.
is our
Do
minority
everything he tells you.
inclusivity
Put these
hire.
on. That's your communications rig. The earpiece and mic allow us to talk, and the glasses contain a camera that lets me see what you see. All right, Nikki, just step through the door and we'll begin your final training.
Shit. Chief.
The word is she's good.
What's your name,
Maybe the
Noah?
finest yet.
She has the potential to be the best.
Jonah.
But a rebellious attitude could get her killed.
By Omega 19 or us?
That remains to be seen.
All right, girl, let's see what you got.
I remember that from when I played it. It just cuts you off right there.
All right, first things first, Nikki. I need to calibrate your comms equipment. Try looking at the red cross to your left. Good. Now look up to the red cross above you. Now the cross to your right. Now the cross. All right, that all checks out. Now, climbing that ladder, we'll start your training.
Yeah, it's really slow. It's clearly trying to... It's bootlegging all of them, really. Little Metal Gear, little Syphonfilter, a little bit of Splinter Cell, even. And in terms of pure gameplay, it's not the worst thing ever, like I said, but it's unrefined, I guess, more than anything. But yeah, if not for like the pretty much immersion breaking levels of bad, you know, voice acting and writing, I guess. You know, it wouldn't be the worst thing, especially if it was a little more refined. It could be really, really fun. It is really, really fun, I would say. But again, it's simple fun, and you just gotta know when to put it down. For me, more than anything, the reason why it's been relevant on the channel, it's just because I like to make fun of it. Specifically for all of those bad reasons. Listen up, Nikki. We hate you because you're a woman. Now get out there. Especially like on this first actual mission, they go real over the top with like that M rating. They make sure to call you a slut like a good 3 or 4 times. It's like a terrorist doing it, sure, and you murder them, but it's just like, oh, you don't get that with a male protagonist. Can't call Solid Snake a whore. I mean, you could. I don't even think it'd be inaccurate. Snake seems a little slutty for sure. Just... Oh, God, no.
That's impressive stuff. One final test and we're done in here. All
Keep
you gotta
out.
do is reach the exit.
I don't think you walk around being as caked up as Solid Snake without being a little slutty. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past Kojima anyway. Colonel, you'll never believe what this dude just called me. Fucking Major Tom. Get in there. Anyway, yeah, let's go back to the Wii U menu. Yeah, keep an eye out on Thursday and Friday. I'll likely stream both days. They'll both probably be about as short as this one. Probably a little shorter even. But more than likely, I'll give in to my weakness and just choose to play Risk of Rain 2. Because it's a lot of fun, and I was close to beating it, and I'd like to stream it again. It brought in a pretty decent audience, too. So especially for, you know, return engagers and whatnot, return viewers, that would be the sort of stream to catch specifically. The bigger the crowd, the better. But yeah, if not, it'll probably be Goose Game or the Chow Garden. And regardless, it'll be one or the other, you know, on the next day. It just depends on which one comes first. And if we can get Goose Game out of the way in just a couple of hours, if we have to run it a little bit longer to finish Goose Game because it's not that long, we just may. But I remember it only taking me like 2 or 3 hours to beat it the first time. And that was me going into it blind and already not knowing. I kind of still remember like some of the puzzles if I remember. The gardener, those two people in their backyards, the lady with the garden in her underwear and all that nonsense. So it shouldn't take me all that long, but one or the other will get to it. And before I close completely, you know, so I can have something to just hang on, maybe, maybe not. I don't know if Phantasy Star is on here. That might be one of the games that actually comes up in this next year. I definitely want to, I want to record Skyrim too. For a couple of reasons. Mainly for that HD, like I was talking about. I want it in as good as quality as possible. But also, yeah, it should be most of the same stuff. I don't think there's anything on here that isn't already on. Oh, Mario Party 5 doesn't have a shortcut, only 7. The Ocarina multi-pack. I don't think I have a shortcut for that either, just the collector's edition. Fucking Spyro. And then there's the Mega Collection. We've only played the Gems Collection. And yeah, I don't have... I don't have it on here, but thanks to the magic of command strips, I do have a Wii sensor bar on my monitor right here, right in front of me, as you've seen. So, Sorry, that was my Wii U turning back on. I don't have a standalone Wii sensor bar, so I need to have my Wii U on, because that's what it's connected to, unless I want to unplug the cables. And I actually need my Pro Controller. I forgot I could just do that. And here's where I've got Phantasy Star. This is, of course, just the regular Wii, though. You can tell the difference. See how much grainier it is. And yeah, the main reason I want to get into Phantasy Star 1 and 2, as I've mentioned before, is because it's got chow functionality. One of like the post-game side quests, I think, gives you a Tails Chow as a reward, which can be traded to the Tiny Chow Garden. And from there, it can be moved up to Sonic Adventure DX or Sonic Adventure 2. So this will be a good tie-in back to Sonic, back to the Chow Garden, loop it all around. But because of the nature of this game, it's probably going to take a while as well. So this will be one of those games that gets streamed, you know, in the long form that you're used to. But then once this is done, right, it'll be something way more casual. You know, it'll be followed by something more along the lines of Goose Game than... Hello? Oh, it's expecting an actual GameCube controller. Everything's at an arm's reach, though, so... What happened? Is it because I hit disagree? That couldn't be good. That happens sometimes, old consoles. And good morning to you, I guess. It's getting later at night for me, but I'm doing all right. Going over all the changes coming up to the channel. Like I said, it's mostly just the frequency, or the spotlight for streams will be separated from the gameplay series is all. Where's my controller? Ah. Yeah, I had that on for Pokemon, of course, because you need the native controls to be able to communicate through the Game Boy Link cables, which work through the GameCube port, but any other time it's probably easier to do this because then you don't have to worry about having your actual GameCube controllers out there. There we go. I didn't realize it was so picky. So yeah, at some point, maybe somewhere around next summer, you can expect me to actually finally get into this game. But going back to Skyrim, yeah, that one probably won't be streamed. I'll find something to stream with the completed save file probably afterward. But once you see me streaming a new Skyrim character, you know, at some point next year, you'll know that I, you know, behind the scenes, off screen, have played and beaten it, you know, on camera still. But that'll be more like the traditional gameplay series where they don't have streams. It'll only be the recordings and the abridgments that you'll see. But it'll be better for like the editing part too, because then I won't have to worry about interrupting dialogue with like commenter interaction, nor will I have to worry about ignoring commenter interaction because I'm in the middle of, you know, doing something integral to gameplay. I'll be completely isolated. And even with the gameplay series, you know, I'll do like the chat and the engagement more to like the back seat while I try to review stuff. And that'll probably still remain the same. But like I said, those streams will be lesser in the year. Those big streams will happen once every few months. And then everything else, because it won't be that format, I won't have to worry about, I might say a lot of the same stuff, it might come off as the same way, but it won't matter one way or the other if I complete a thought, if I completely forget something that I was talking about, because it's gonna be the reverse. That's gonna take a back seat to stuff like this, you know, more engaged, conversational stuff, but while still providing good gameplay. So that's why I'll probably be focusing on like I said, some fighting games. Might look at Tekken, might look at Soul Calibur 2 finally, Bloody Roar and things like that on the GameCube. Risk of Rain will probably get picked up on and off as it has been because I just really think that game is fun. And then, you know, just more experimental stuff. Like I said, it gives me a lot of creative leeway. I don't have to worry about interrupting, you know, all the Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword content or anything like that. I can just come up with something. And there we go. I should have turned that way up after Sonic. It's just I forgot to. Because those Sonic Adventure games are ridiculously loud. I had my monitor turned down all the way, and just at like the neutral volume level, it was still blasting louder than this is turned up like a third of the way. I'm surprised this isn't obnoxiously loud too, considering it's Sega and Sonic Team as well. I just love this 80s cocaine music ass intro that they gave this game. It's like you're about to watch some dude with a mustache and sunglasses in a colorful tucked in polo shirt, you know, just gun down people masterfully somewhere on the beach in a convertible. I think I'm just describing Magnum PI, but yeah, that's the big change after January. So because January will still technically be part of our year, you know, the Syphonfilter Speedrun as well as the Omega Strain gameplay series, which will be the next gameplay series after Skyward Sword once this is all done in a couple of weeks. We'll probably follow up the next couple of months, February, March at least, with, like I said, indiscriminate stuff. I might go back to like some easy, you know, old reliable kind of stuff, things like Risk of Rain 2 or something else. But we'll shift that into, you know, more variety content as much as I can. Because there's a lot of cool like indie games on PC, and my computer seems to be able to handle running software like games while also streaming at least decently. So as long as it doesn't cause too much of like a visual compromise with some games, I'd like to play some of these you know, more one-off bite-sized titles like I said. Just last night I was watching Markiplier play No, We're Not Human or whatever it's called. That's what the video was called at least. you know, it's just one of those games where like people come knocking at your door and they act suspect. You have to let them in or not. It's just one of those weird, freaky looking horror games. Which that's where I saw Mind Scanners for the first time too, was I watched Markiplier play it. That's why I bought it and wanted to play it for myself. But, you know, I like that kind of style of game, and I like that sort of experience you can get on a stream with it. So that's the sort of thing that I want to focus on. Just as well, because I am at over the 500 subscriber mark now, and, you know, I should hopefully only go up in subscribers from here. And because I'm pretty confident in my ability to maintain, you know, my 4,000 hours a year, at least with streaming, at some point mid next year, maybe like around the summer, I might start making more of a push for things like, you know, super chat and like viewer incentives and stuff like that. But the main thing I'll do, because I've had people both wanting to super chat and, you know, request games and things like that, that's the appeal that I want to give it. I want to be able to basically, at the very least, I want people to be able to contribute towards me being able to afford the games they want me to play. But to that end, I'd like to play more like viewer recommended things, which was always something I wanted to do, but, you know, again, that takes time and money that isn't exactly at my disposal, you know, at the moment. But that's the goal, is that sort of thing. So I plan on growing, but you'll see it slow down. You'll see the volume and the quality, or the quantity, you know, hour-wise go down for the streams, but you can expect the big streams, you know, a few times a year. They're the big series, you know. So if you like these longer streams, you know, multiple times a week, you know, me playing a game for like a month straight, you'll get that a few months out of next year. But for the most part, like I said, more bite-sized experiences. And yeah, if you want to go the route of modding your GameCube, as I've mentioned before, I feel like it's just cheaper and more efficient to buy a Wii. Even a Wii U. But the Wii specifically, because it was so popular, you can find them secondhand very affordably nowadays. Even on like the shitty aftermarkets nowadays, you can find Wiis for like $80, $90. Even cheaper if you buy like a shitty one off like eBay. You could probably get it at under like $50. Soft modding a Wii has always been incredibly easy. To this day, I think letter bombing it still works. I'm pretty sure that's how I did mine this last time. You get your MAC address off it, you type it into the Letterbomb website. It generates a specific file for you, and then you read that on your mail, and then that breaks your Wii. You know, of course you want to have all the other stuff ready for it. You know, I couldn't tell you all that off the top of my head. You want to follow a guide at your own risk, at your own discretion for that sort of stuff. But it's not hard to do. You know, it's dragging some files here and there, creating backups basically. And if you run this software that I'm running right now, Nintendo, on my Wii, it can force any feature that the GameCube had. Online compatibility or any other communication feature for the games that had them. And because the Wii has built-in Wi-Fi, it can connect to the internet with those features. The thing about this game, I'm not sure how it works. I don't know if there's like just like a player-to-player connection. I'm pretty sure it's not, though. I think it was meant to be like, you know, it's like an MMO sort of thing. So I think there does have to be like an active server. But nowadays, even without a whole lot of knowledge around it, you know, with YouTube and, you know, easily accessible software, it's not hard for like the average Joe who doesn't know what they're doing to download some stuff and get a server running of their own. But a game like this specifically has a big enough following that I bet you could find yourself like a Discord or something else where there's people who, you know, maintain active Phantasy Star servers. People running specifically setups like this. I know that is true for Monster Hunter. Very dedicated crowds for like Monster Hunter 3, for example, on the Wii. You know, they meet up and they run custom servers. which you can join these. You can find these communities online if you care that much about it. But so it's not impossible that I could do something online with people here. But even for things that are just like direct multiplayer, things that wouldn't have required a server, I don't know if there's anything like that on GameCube. Because, I mean, there was this. Mario Kart Double Dash had some online features. And there was like 1 or 2 other titles that had online for very specific reasons too. But that being said, by comparison, even if you already have a GameCube, the amount of money that it takes to invest in things like an HD adapter, if you have the right type of GameCube first of all, as well as the physical mods, depending on what you want to go for, that can almost cost just as much or more than just buying a whole new, or you know, a separate console like a Wii and then doing it yourself. But if you really want to explore those online functions for the few games that have it like this one, I think that's the way to do it. Same thing too, if you want the most like high fidelity GameCube experience while still being true, while still playing the truly native experience itself, not like an upscaled, you know, bastardized emulation, the Wii U is probably still the single best way to do that too. Because it's native upscaled HD through the Wii's, through the VWii's HD output. Without the use of a converter or anything, it's already got an HDMI output. And I mean, that's it. You know, you see it as best as it can, and it'll detect the progressive scan, and even if it doesn't, the Nintendo software can force it on top of Bluetooth connectivity. So right now, because I'm on the Wii, you know, I have to use the Wii remote or the GameCube controller, which gives me all of those functions. But on the Wii U, you can also use the gamepad or the Wii U Pro controller. So you can have like a fully wireless HD GameCube at your disposal with the modded Wii U, for example, on top of everything else the Wii U can do. But another thing I'm going to look into, like I said, is seeing how well I can stream software while also streaming software to my computer, right? Because I've done it before, so I know it works. And I remember it not really having any latency. I connected, because again, my 3DS and Wii U are both modded. I have software in my 3DS that lets me connect Bluetooth controllers to it, and there's also software on it that allows me to use, it's just like basic software. It used to come pre-installed with like every Windows PC. Now you have to download it yourself because no one really used it, but it's like that network connectivity app. It's the thing that lets you connect to another device on a network and transfer files and all that. One of the things you can do with that is basically live stream a video through a direct internet feed. So I connected a controller to my 3DS and then connected the video feed to my computer software, opened it up on a full screen window, and played Ocarina of Time 3D off of my actual 3DS, but viewing it on a computer screen with a Bluetooth controller. And there was practically no latency, none that I could tell. It was reacting pretty much 1-to-1 on the computer screen. So from the Bluetooth controller to the 3DS to being cast to the computer. The thing that I'm worried about, though, with my computer not being the most powerful, you know, machine, is that, let me throw on something else for this last couple of minutes, because I've ran this like twice already. And because I'm on the Wii, because it has the full GameCube mode, I have to turn it off and on every time, because resetting just resets the game as it would like on the GameCube. So let's go back into Nintendo. I don't think this had anything special. It's got Master Quest on it, but And yeah, you can use a controller and things like that on the 3DS, but again, it's all through modding, which can be strenuous on the 3DS, especially if you're doing it all together. There are movies. I love that sound. Yeah, it can be strenuous, obviously, because it's not meant to do all those things. And it's not really the most powerful console. Damn, this is some B-roll, man. I want to play Metroid Prime eventually. It's one of my favorite games on the Wii U. Star Fox Adventures, we already saw that on the Wii U too, so you know I've got it on here already. Nightfire, we've got the series already. Damn, I need to play all these games just so I can use this as my own. Hey man, I've totally played all these games. Rogue Squadron 2, that might put in some work. Sports. But yeah, my main issue then though is with whether or not my PC can handle, you know, receiving that incoming video stream while also actively streaming it or even just recording it. I wouldn't mind that either. But it's, you know, can it? Especially because I would want to cast the top and bottom screen in isolation, you know? So that way I could edit them both freely. That would be my main concern. And then, you know, I'd want to play the right games for it. I could play the... That being said, if I get that working, I can follow up this year's Gen 3 series either next year, right, during maybe the winter season. Oh, there's Phantasy Star. Fucking Henry Porter. We can, yeah, if I get it all working good, I can follow up the Gen 3 series with the Gen 4 series. The only issue with that is that I wouldn't be able to incorporate the Game Boy interactions. I wouldn't be able to integrate the PAL Park because there's no GBA port on there, and I don't know that there's any way that you can, you know, mimic that. I don't know if there's a way you can emulate that specifically within the 3DS itself. The only way I'd be able to do that is if I had a traditional Game Boy, either with a traditional Game Boy and a capture card built into it, or you know, on an emulator, which, you know, and with all my modded setup, it's not impossible for me to do something on the 3DS, transfer it to an emulator, do something else on there, and then dump it back to my 3DS. I could even do that with my Game Boy games if I wanted to. That's the benefit of this setup that I have. But, you know, I get a little picky when it comes to Pokemon, and I wouldn't want to run it on an emulator just for, like, the integrity of it. Not that anybody but me really cares, or not like anybody would think that I was cheating, especially if I streamed it all and showed you, but, you know, that's just what I mean. That's how picky I am with it. And no, I haven't played the new Prime 4. I see that you get a motorcycle on it, and I guess people are freaking out over like Amiibo exclusive content, but I mean, what are you gonna do? Fucking Nintendo, right? It's not the same ever since Iwata died, man. And you see what I mean with all this NFT nonsense? Like, is this an NFT or isn't it? A fucking live stream on YouTube about the Wii U or the Nintendo Wii running GameCube games that have trailers for other shit. I mean, what do you call that? What is this video segment? I like that GameCube graphic too. I wish you could, I wish there was like a button input to make your GameCube load up like that. That would be cool. And of course, this is on the Switch now too. This and the Wind Waker. Which, if you've seen it on the Switch, you can see the difference in quality. You can definitely tell that it's like upscaled on the Switch, but you can tell that it uses some kind of like generic overlaying on it, you know what I mean? Because it's not like, if you're really, really picky about it and you really, really want to compare it, you'll notice like things smooth in ways maybe they shouldn't be, or highlighted in ways they shouldn't be. Very minor stuff, you know, but it's all to the ends of making it look much sharper. Because by comparison, running the GameCube version at 1080 with progressive scan like you could on the Wii U, it looks much, much blockier by comparison, so. But yeah, I'll probably practice with some of that. I'll probably just try recording it, and then if that works out fine enough, I might dummy it on a stream. It'll probably be a private stream though, so it won't matter if you won't see it, I guess, even if it works out. But if it does, you know, I'll be sure to mention it in the future, and you can expect to see like 3DS and hopefully more Wii U stuff too. Because again, the problem with recording stuff for the Wii U is that I don't want to miss out on what's happening on the capture card or on the gamepad for Wii U specific titles. And then as for the Skyrim thing, beyond just the frame rate, like I said, a big part of me wants to record it without like the HUD or the soundtrack especially, which I feel like that could throw a lot of people off. I feel like a lot of people may not want to watch me stream Skyrim for like 4 hours, right? With absolutely no music, just ambience and voices and footsteps. I feel like it would take a little something away. But for my own specific editing purposes, things that I would want to do with that video footage in the future, the sort of video styles that I have in my head, even if I don't have an idea for it, I would want to have all of these isolated sounds, you know, without music. But then that would also mean having to edit in music just for the abridgment too, which sounds like a little more work. Sounds a little strenuous, but since I'll probably have to end up mixing some of the soundtrack anyway, like you'll see me do occasionally, like I did for the Gen 3 soundtrack, it probably won't be that big of a deal either. Because that's kind of the whole reason why that video exists anyway. I normally try not to do things that are just like medleys or compilations and things like that. But yeah, if you go to my videos tab, you see the Gen 3 Ambience compilation. That's like just an hour and 7 minutes of footage and soundtrack. But the main reason why that even exists is because that video, as it's formatted, is going to serve as kind of the backbone for the eventual narrated piece that I'm going to do with it. And that just compiles it all for me. You know, it's kind of like a cheat sheet kind of scenario. So I'll probably end up doing something similar with Skyrim in the future, so it probably won't be too big of a deal, you know. I'll have to mix audio one way or the other, so I may as well do it as a backtrack for the abridgment if I go that silent route for the recording of it. But like I said, I'll try to do 1 or 2 more streams like this before the end of the year. Probably, if I end up doing anything for Christmas or New Year specifically, it will probably be something like this. You know, just more hangout, more whatever. And in the streams to come, they're going to be a little more casual, like I said, but they're going to be gameplay oriented still. So Thursday, you can expect either Risk of Rain 2 or Goose Game. Maybe the Chow Garden. And then whatever we don't play on that day, we'll play the following day on Friday. More than likely, you'll get Risk of Rain on Thursday. And I don't know why they wouldn't do the GameCube stuff on the Switch, just the Switch 2. I guess hardware performance reasons, but also, you know, just to give you a reason to buy it. Because I had a friend come over the other day, and we were going to play some Smash Bros. And we tried to connect his GameCube controller to the Switch, and it wouldn't even connect. The Switch 2 controllers won't even connect back with it, even for the GameCube stuff. They thankfully at least connect up, right? Your Nintendo 64 or Super Nintendo controllers can connect to it, but not the other way around. But, yeah, so we'll get a little bit more into updates, like I said, once or twice before the end of the year, because then after that, January's all Syphonfilter, mostly the speedrun. And then Risk of Rain 2, Chow Garden, this other stuff, and then somewhere in between we'll sneak in a little Skyrim, this file from like this last year as well. I might finally do all the stuff on Solstheim for the super speed that I didn't do before. And other than that, just casual stuff. Whatever I can think to play, whatever kind of bite-sized experience. Definitely try to hit up those Risk of Rain 2 streams though. Those tend to at least have a few dozen people in them. And especially in January, the speedrun can pull a good amount of people, but it's one of those things where like people only watch a speedrun when you're doing good. The second you like restart, the second you fail, the second anything happens, you'll like lose your audience. So when it comes to that specifically, I'd really like to have as much support as possible, because that's the one time of the year where it's just like, it's something beyond just general gameplay. We're going for a whole ass goal. But you can expect me to talk a lot more about Syphonfilter. If you check the description, my current run is right there. My current personal best, which is 7th place on the listings. Which, I'm not saying that isn't impressive, but it's not like there's a whole lot of people who play speedrun Syphonfilter. Really what I'm going to go for this year is the top 3. That's all I was going for last year anyway, but I can hopefully get a lot closer to it this time. So check that. Check the home tab, check the gameplay series, check out our topics, and just, you know, keep coming back. See us around the same time. You'll see the Twilight Princess shorts. And speaking of Twilight Princess, like I said, it looks like this video is not going to be up for a while. It's still barely 50% uploaded after these last couple of hours. So I wouldn't expect to see it, you know, for at least another 2 or 3. I would have liked to started publishing it earlier, but it took a little longer to review the final pieces, and then it took like almost like a whole 3 hours just to export it from my computer to begin with. So either way, in the next few hours, if not tomorrow, Twilight Princess will be up. The first, you know, part of it up to the Master Sword. By the end of the year, the rest of it will be out, and if you want more Zelda, Wind Waker's already out. The 64 games are both out. Ocarina's got its review. And then there's all the other review stuff, the guides for the Chow Garden, the Ultimate Experience retrospective for the Chow Garden, Shadow the Hedgehog, whatever you want. So just come back, keep an eye out, and I'm going to let you sit through a couple more cycles of this, because as it turns out, there's actually a few more cinematics here that I didn't know about before. Until, like, you know, I reviewed these intros like a few months ago for some other stream. I think it was during the summer. I don't remember, but have fun with that. And like I said, just click on the channel.